All right, so here. The United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just. Roll call. Or here. Michael James. Karen Falco. Here. Please go against it. I'd like to open up the floor for public comment at this time. Here. We'll be around.
I'll make the public.
Okay, thank you. If you can just state your name and address for the record. Oh, wait, that's pretty. We can move to dance.
Steve Chapin, just
I hit a bad button by mistake. I'm sorry, should be.
possible. What to talk about. But then it's about family. I think most of the boards in town having 4 days or people like to move that. Secondly, still want two topics. First, the library again. Because some people think I have too much time on my hands, which I do. I read the library minutes today, and there seems to be there's something very concerning. It's stated that the town council told the library board to basically put their extension project on hold. The minutes said it, and they essentially said, no, we're going to move it. I know. That's concerning to me, and I still don't have an answer. I emailed 4 or 3 times. Took 3 attempts to get an answer, still don't have an answer. And the library board for some on. And you grapevine threw out a number of $18 million. So is that the number that we're talking about? And can the library board for the bonds of these by having the electric for?
Yes, and I just, it's not equal to first elected, but because you ask these questions of the board on the agenda, so that if you all of your questions can be answered publicly and the information can be shared.
Okay, the public knows the question, I guess. So,
Well,
so the questions I asked were for purpose of the public were what is the cost estimate of the library paper fee project? How does the library board plan to fund this? Is it going to be privately funded because they did hire a consultant that all the library minutes? And then secondly, and then thirdly, my question was if they fail to raise the money, can they do a bond? So that would be great to find out. Then ambulance topic, wondering if the board, I saw that the plane got up into about 50,000. Someone posted on public data that the estimated for construction is 2.4 million. Not sure if that's still holds. However, as the board, the council budgeted ongoing annual costs. Because I think we're in a situation where the cart is put before horse, without an ambulance, we don't have a place to house it, and there's probably going to be another tax increase for that thing without getting shortly. So we go out to operate. There's going to be ongoing costs, and I want to see that's the estimate that it's not. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay, let's move into town council reports. I'll say for EMS in May, I think we have you must have to want on that is with us. I'll often have a time in and I can give it over the stats we had for the month of May. We 85 new falls.
Average response time, 6.2 minutes. Average on the scene time, 16.5 minutes. Transport time, 13 minutes. And average turnaround time was 29 minutes. I think it's trending down. By volume, we had 45 calls in Town Matter. We had 27 calls in the village town. We did 7 mutual aid calls, responses out, 6 responses by Thursday, had 1, which is 5 mark, and 3 mutual aid responses into Pelham. So that's the mutual aid report. We are basically consistently active with our service and shows strong operational performance and continued regional support in the area. You want to-
Probably should have got that before you were talking.
It's okay.
Maybe I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, we don't have to get down to that, yeah.
for the video,
Yeah.
okay. Not all it's the working.
I love it.
I don't think it. So the only other thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention, just so we're aware, staff, your EMS, you know, one of the medical directors and one of our co-directors for quality insurance. We're all recognized,
wait.
I'm sorry. You want to-
Okay.
We're all recognized by the Westchester County Regional EMS Council for their excellence in the 2025 year. The EMS crew, Michael Van and son, Sandra Sampson, Sam Kupperberg, along with members of the Pelham Fire Department and the Pelham Fire Department and Pelham Manor Police Department for the life saving they had last summer with the Pelham Manor Act. And that, one of our men directly, Dr. Lee Schimbecker, was recognized as a physician of excellence. I'm sorry. The Nicholas Theovertis was one of the founders, actually the founders of the region. They named the award and basically doctors that reached this point where they had such a profound impact on the enough of the county. Through application that they had to get this year. As well as our nurse manager was on our quality assurance team. She's doing everything while some of those in hospital times ticking down. We're getting better, and that's Dr. Daniel training. She's very doctor. So we have 2 of our leaders and one of our crews are probably in my opinion, some of the most prestigious awards. The county of the law, but that's all they just not long enough.
Okay, did you say Gary?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, Gary Regan and members of the Pelham Fire Department, also like say for children.
So that would be amazing. And was don't drink EMS week. Obviously very appropriate. And I just wanted to thank you because the policy EMS was not just happening in May. Attended the vehicle fair in that. Which is great. And then three crew members came to the bus together overnight on Friday and were holding baby girls. And so that was really nice and additional community.
I believe the date was also at each chef's training, because they wanted to participate too.
Yeah.
So you, each chef training, not to think about that, both went to it. So,
Keep that going. Then you have a motion.
Just to be clear, that microphone does work when it's very close.
Okay, Councilwoman Britt? Yep, I had very brief tonight. So the court is hiring for a full-time assistant court clerk. It's been posted. The question that came up from the judges, and we've talked about this in the past, is sort of any which ways to post it more widely. Possibly through LinkedIn or, you know. Exploring,
Yeah.
It said if I just looked it up, it's. No, okay. Okay. Great. I did too, but I was like, I'm reading it right before me and these people don't. So, okay. Okay, the only other update is that is regarding the field, pedestrian safety project. Teresa and I
attended the meeting with a nice group of people on the 15th of May. It was a really productive conversation. And just to clarify again, the town is really serving as like a facilitator of this. We actually have no jurisdictional oversight of the area or purview of the area. But we've been just trying to, sort of bring all the constituents together. So we had the manager, Lindsay Love, we had Mike Carpenter from the Village of Pelham. We had a representative from Mount Vernon, which was fantastic. And Jim Rickey, and Sidberg from the school. And there's some sort of action items that the village are going to be kind of working on. We're really trying to focus on like low hanging fruit initially and sort of on the side that we can control, which is the Pelham jurisdictions. We did look at a potential grant that we could apply to, but it really didn't apply to us. We are going to be exploring a possible joint grant, or joining in with the grant that Mount Vernon has been working on. So I'm going to share that with them. Oh, and the supervisor, Chief Hogan is also on the call. That's it for me. Thank you.
So last thing that I gave, some figures for, library, pre-print money, programs, things to replacing for our 4 months of 2026, just to, round out, I wanted to, add a couple from to the full year of 2025, 62,077 in-person visits. 580 in-person events for 13,710 people. 192 kids participating in the summer reading program, including my daughter. And 252 AFQ including adult participants. 8,600 kids from ages newborn to 5 years old, along with their caregivers, went to 119 in-person early literacy program. So violently enough, 52,783 actual real physical votes left out. Not real. And just sort of generally, the library is open 47 hours and 50 weeks a year. So there's the regular event programming that's available on the library calendar, but there is some specific special programming that I wanted to highlight for this in the June newsletter. There's this month, the making of Jaws. It's the definitive backstory of Steven Spielberg's amazing film that scared everybody from going to the beach. You can learn stories about the park itself, fights between the actors behind the scenes, the infamous score, and how you're going to need a bigger boat became part of the film. So that's very exciting. Somewhat of that. There's the Awareness Inspires Conservation with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. So there you can learn about the ongoing white shark research projects that are being conducted, funded by the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. How that research impacts conservation and public safety efforts, and get up-to-date information on what we have learned from research. And then not related to sharks. There's a new bookshelf for adults. It is the Faraway Fiction Book Club, and it is going to be largely focused on sci-fi books. So discussion is going to be once a month on Thursday, page 7, in person, 7 p.m. in person, and I'm starting to live. And that's here's my.
I remember. And so the supervisor, no. And we were scared to go with this. Anyhow, so on to the recreation department. Because I can swim. In the ocean. So the seniors took 37 medical round trip rides to doctor's appointments. That number pretty much will be steady. It's pretty much the same group of people. Exercise and movement is Tuesdays, 10 to 11, yoga Friday, 10 to 11. The walking club meets at Glover Field, April to November, from 10 to 11 on Wednesdays. Arts and crafts is the first Thursday of the month, 1 to 3, on Wednesdays, 12:30 to 1:30. Card playing, Mondays after the meetings, Wednesdays and Fridays, 12 to 3:30. Trips to the New Rochelle Diner, transportation is not included, but the trip to Port Randy is transportation was. They have their monthly birthday event. Visits from different elementary schools, students, Mother's Day lunch is last month donated by the Junior League. A visit from Dr. Chiak that, from what I understand, that's quite needed. And a lunch that donated by the civics. Bingo is Monday after the meeting, and that schedule will be maintained during the month of June and July. For June, I'll also have a visit from the high school sock and buskin, and Mark and the EMS group will come and talk about first aid and safety in home. Danielle Hoover, who's a performer, will be here for entertainment. They'll also have David Levin, the New York Medical Aid and Dying Act and Living Wills expert, will come and speak to the seniors on that. Let's see, where was the video? All questions should be on web, or can be answered on the website or by calling the senior advocate. For the recreation department, the Monday night bands start June 15th. They will be started off by Sue and the Fun Pools. Say that's no. And this year, the opening event will be sponsored by Meridian. And we're looking for other businesses to sponsor the nights. Many of the bands that they charge this, so this is a way to offset that. Summer sports clinics are now available online for signups. Basketball, soccer, tennis, track, football, volleyball, and multi-sport. New this summer is a sewing camp called So Happy. Me and my dog, 20th to July 2nd, and Popsicle Fun, August 3rd to August 7th. There are still a few spots at Hutchinson, Tammy Tots, and Big Tots. The other camps are for adults. There's a men's softball league that has already started. Pickleball lessons on Fridays for beginners and intermediate are available. Ladies and gentlemen, lessons are also available. Mahjong lessons and open play on Wednesday evenings. And then 2 highlights from Home Together. They held their first mentor meeting with summer interns who will be participating in a 3-week job program at various small businesses in Pelham and locally. It was very, very well attended. They almost get 2 to 3 times the number of interns they can take. And so it's quite a competitive process. And then last Friday night, there was a very successful overnight to raise awareness around mental health. And that was very, very widely attended by both teams and players. Thank you so much. For the supervisors report, let's start with the financial report. In an effort to provide a helpful list of the I first created 2 reports. We have already the system that is now very flexible, and I'm working with the company to figure out how to create a holistic report.
But in the meantime, what you have in front of you is the statement of revenues and expenditures for May. For May, and you also have the general ledger for May in front of you. See that has all of the capital transactions. Showing payroll, and it's associated with budgets. Between the two of these, as you can see, we have two of budgets and some of these individual transactions for the. So I would encourage you all to take this back, look at it, and then we can move forward from there. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, technically, I'd like to just give you a little emphasis on the ongoing projects. First is the audit concluded May 11th, when the auditors finished wrapping up. The town sustainability advisory board had its first meeting this month. It was a really successful meeting. We had representatives from school boards from both villages, actually about 50 projects that they had going on separately. We are excited to start working together on projects. We also expect to hear, we made it to the first part of the grant for a town-wide tree inventory. The next part, the Save Sound basically puts out to bid the contract, and assuming that somebody comes back with a bid that's within the range, we should be hearing that we are successful. I'm very hopeful that the company that the village of Pelham used to do the natural resources inventory expressed interest in bidding on this, so we're looking forward to that. After our last meeting, our second last meeting, we hired Dennis Architects to do the facilities master planning. We've been working very, very quickly with them to do an assessment of all of the town facilities. I think that the three main issues that we have and that have been identified are our services are not accessible. In other words, all of our town services right now, the ports, except for the ports, are on the second floor of Jalapa, which are not accessible. We have to move them into an accessible location. The second big issue that we have is storage. A tour of our facility shows that things are stored in a variety of places that are not necessarily the best place for those things. And we have to figure out storage. And then lastly, and I'll address Mr. Schoen's point, is the ambulance. Part of the facilities master plan is to determine with the best location for the ambulance is. Right now, we are housing our EMS team in the location down on the first floor of the townhouse and the town hall, and then we have a temporary facility here for the ambulance and the flight line. I don't know what the right answer is. The decision to pursue the property was before my time, and was not part of that decision-making process. I think that that's part of what the facilities master planners are looking at, is what is the best idea going forward. But that is something that I think we will have a very good sense of in the next, when we are still thinking about the office. When we will have the facilities master plan, we can present it with the planners, present it. The other thing that I'd like to just before the other two is, now that we have the personnel handbook, we are scheduling meetings with each department to make sure we have job descriptions for everybody who works in the town hall. We understand what the hours are. We understand the responsibilities are. Those meetings will be taking place this week. We will also be getting acknowledgements for the handbook and the code of ethics. I'm very excited about those meetings. So that's going to be this week. Any questions? This is my minutes. for it's, as you remember, we approved a contract that had 5 phases. We're very, look, once, there are a few open questions that are on, the town right now, answering, including the needs, the storage needs for the staff. So it's, for example, for the, town clerk's office, as an example, what are the files that need to be readily accessible? What are the files that could be stored? What are the files that could go off-site if possible? What are the files that could be stored? That's the kind of analysis that that will help us answer questions about how much space. So we're looking at everything holistically, not just as it is today, but also as it can grow. Understanding that the town BMS is here. And that space is not available for other uses, but if in the future it is available, what those uses be? So that's the type of thinking that's going on.
Are there restrictions or requirements on storage of physical documents that prohibited digitizing and storing in multiple applications of storage?
What, where, that's part of the analysis. Right now, many of our records are stored in case that which is something like, which is not a place for records which will require to be, because I understand that in the past, some records that we were required to be. So part of it is understanding what's the big about it, part of it is understanding what has to be kept. And then being able to plan in space perspective.
So like legal requirements for what has to be kept for record, generally requirements for what has to be kept as physical accessible record, and then also the just procedural hurdle of what possibly can be each person to be doing, whether they're living.
Yes, that's the.
The New York State has a complete very specific requirements, remind me of the.
LGS one.
That's the schedule by which any record has to comply. And just so you know, they're very open to digitizing at this point. There's not a big need to keep actual paper unless it's historical. So, and we do have a lot of digitized records.
And the, and part of it also is doing a review of what we currently have at one level. Mr. Allen, clerk have undertaken to review the records that we have. There are many of those records are probably able to destroy. Understanding how to do that is part of the question. So that's an analysis that we also. But it's not just physical records or from a historical perspective. If you do a tour of our facilities, the basement not only has physical records, but all of the rest of equipment is in a really well. It's part of it is in basement, part of it is in off the back of the wall. Part of it is under this dance, part of it is up there, and part of it is in all of it. These are we have it's how and part of it is in the government parts of the house that we look for. So just to give you a sense, our historical records are for the most part in a room of the fire alarm and on that out problem. So it's just that we have things all over the places, and we also have storage room in town hall that has seriously historical records as such as some minutes going back to the 1800s. We're just it's a lot to kind of drop on. Okay. Right. So then let's move on to the first resolution on our agenda, which is I want to know that the board, the town board, in 2021 had a resolution. That resolution recognized you as Pride Month and also authorized the display of the banner. This resolution is to make it in perpetuity, just to be clear. So this is a resolution recognizing Pride Month and authorizing the annual display of, the Pride banner in Disneyland. Any, motion? So moved. Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so, if the pride flag is not already displayed, we will be displaying it tomorrow. And, we're very excited to meet the pride tomorrow's, as president. And support our community. Okay, next is a resolution, approving updates to the town of Fall Personnel Handbook. You have in front of you a red line version of the handbook. As you will know, these are changes updating formatting and basically section references. The sections in the handbook that we approved, not correct because it's skipped over and has to fix the table of contents, which is now done, and then section references that get updated to the record of the content section. Are there any responses on these updates? No. You want to add, so why don't we talk about it?
Okay, so I apologize. So I've read this far too many times. I don't want to get it covered. But I did find one error that I really need to sit very close. It's actually not an error at all. I just want to sort of add something in the section that's like errors in pay. There are very specific New York State requirements about how you collect money back from overpayments. And it's more to identify it for our employees in doing that. So I just wanted to add something, in accordance with New York procedures. And I think there's like a form possibly that we might want to read too. Okay, right, yeah.
So I'll add this like 84.15 on the, in front of you, so I'll add subject to general state law and if there was a little. Very good, thank you. As we discussed when we first approved this handbook, this is a working document. I would expect that we will be reviewing it at least annually. Additionally, over the next months, this handbook refers to things that we as a board have to do and have a policy line. I have a list of what those are and I will be working to come up with a plan for us to address that. So we can have a whole list that's a supplement to this that we can also run back on an annual basis. That we need. Okay, so can I have a motion? No move. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The next is a resolution authorizing a salary increase. So every for Gloria, as you remember in special meeting that we had on in May, the stipend for Nicholas Gloria, now in a position that he was performing as open. We are suggesting that we increase his annual salary to $63,777.60 effective June 1st. And this, I think, that's what exactly we voted for. Yeah. Second, any questions?
No, it's in the formula. It's a list that at the end. Yeah.
It's Florio.
Thank you. Okay, all those.
That was Kristen. Should give a second.
So the next is a discussion. As I've been reviewing number of, I review every check that we get to understand what it's for, make sure it's in the budget. As part of that process, I came across a few practices that I would need to discuss as a board. One is, it appears that the town has been paid for personal DJ and Costco cards for certain employees and certain family members of the employees. And these are for personal use, they're not for own use. I would recommend that we stop this process. We have a town Costco card that's used for town purposes. And I'd like to open up the discussion. I would.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, welcome to start the second or the other.
No move.
Second.
Is it be a vote? No. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think it just. I don't know. It makes sense for the town. To have a membership. I'm not sure where that would make sense. For the town to pay for a person membership for that.
Yeah, I don't know the history of the practice. I know that it's been for a very long period of time. I think that to me, the issue is it's the use of public funds. I don't think it's an appropriate use of it. So, I will not be looking at it. And. Okay. And the next practice that, has come to my attention, which unfortunately just came to my attention at the past Memorial Day weekend, is, although it's not in the employee handbook, or the policy that the board has voted on, it appears that that our staff is taking, has been taking for a really long time, many, this, years, Friday, Catholic Fridays. And that's a practice, that, you know, is fairly common in private enterprises, is according to our outside employment council, not very common in municipalities. Although I would like to note that for the town, there is such a yes on Fridays. So yeah, so we are, you know, I'm very grateful to our staff. It's because of them that we function as our town services function. And I'm very mindful that this is something that they have gotten, you know, that they've been availing themselves of the personal model. I think that it behooves us to create a policy to figure this out, and I'd like a motion to discuss this. Okay, so I'd like to open it up.
So I guess I have a lot of mixed feelings. I come from, I guess, higher education, which does have sort of flexible, more flexible schedule for this summer. I do feel like it's been a practice for a very long time, and it is a little short notice now in events of the summer, and people potentially have, you know, been scheduled, appointment scheduled, weekend scheduled, so I do think we have to consider changes. I'm just concerned about the timing. That's sort of my perspective on it. I would agree with Councilwoman Burke. Is there a way to keep the offices open and reduce coverage? And people can vote for me. Who gets this Friday versus next Friday versus, and the recreation department from camps, so the library is open. So I'm not sure about the courts operate and we're not in session on Fridays, and we want to do the story over the summer.
It's my understanding that the courts have been closing it days, offices have been closing. And it's also my understanding that the rest of the president has somebody in place on concentration. They just know the libraries that itself is like a restriction of their own personnel.
I guess I would say that I was surprised that this wasn't, it's not employee handbook. When I worked in corporate America, for publishing company, we had every other Friday off. If we worked an extra hour during the week before and the week of, we'll be up to 8 hours, and then we would then take them off. I'm also mindful that a lot of the folks who work in the town, are public facing, and provide services to taxpayers who don't, and this also has, I think, been happening from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's not only, maybe sometimes the August is very quiet, people go away, but I do think we need to have coverage for folks that rely on the town for services that they require, the town clerk or the tax receiver, the tax assessor. So we do want to figure something out for tax.
To the extent that you want to think about the town as a business. And as a business, we're a service. And just like a pharmacy. If you have to serve your patients or your residents, you need to be open to be able to serve them. And it's not, the town services are not part of a corporate business that where work can just be shifted around sort of one way or another. It doesn't seem to be appropriate to deny what is all, I mean, relatively limited availability. I think it's generally mining the corporate. So if I personally needed services with limited results of my, so I don't intend to further deny availability to services on Friday afternoons. Just doesn't seem appropriate for the kind of quote unquote business that the town is.
So I think there are two issues we're talking about here. One is. One I think is easy to solve, which is, we pay people a salary to work 35 hours a week. To the extent that they less than that, they can make their own other, because that's easily. I think the bigger question is, you're raising what has been in the council people is the availability of sponsors. I would like to know, and I think this is an important thing to know. This has been our unavailability of services from telephone to Memorial Day through Labor Day has been happening for at least 10 years. So,
But then not only services for 10 years, it's not a reason to continue denying the availability.
I agree with you. But I think that that's an important thing. We have our employees that are used to it, so we can benefit. And the question is, has it really had a negative impact on insurance of it serving the public? So it's a really hard decision we have to make. It's a balance. They're going to do something Friday afternoon by appointment. Because many of the services are like getting a marriage license or sometimes talking to the assessor or whatever it is. If someone can't be here on a Tuesday and ready, if I don't know, I think what I'd like to propose that we consider is that that we allow people to either use personal time or make up the time during the week to accommodate a half day on a Friday, that services will be covered between the services will be covered between Memorial Day and 4th of July, but between the 4th of July and the boxes, so we don't have to require service. Okay. I think it's not a solution, it's and I think maybe we do more sort of investigating into what, the community feels about services not being offered.
I've never heard of a complaint about it, but it does not mean that people are happy. And then maybe working on a potential rotating schedule for different departments, get a feel about it.
But I think we have to come up with something, because we have employees that have an expectation that despite it not being, it's not their fault that it hasn't been. Be able to tell us when it's exactly, and I do want to create certainty for them. Where that is where, and I think that you're right, we need to go to down and,
I think it needs to be more about, yes, in the, probably in the handbook, book policy.
that will be a change. No, this will be it's a living document. It won't, it doesn't need to be in the handbook says, according to town policy, so we can just state it down. That's right. All right. Okay. I'm going to make a motion to support divide their mohawks.
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, good. I appreciate that. Okay, last on the agenda. The second one, on the agenda is the discussion of the library's work demand. And this is, we put this on the agenda because Mr. Chicane asked some very critical questions. We feel like the answers to those questions should be public. And so we are going to discuss it. And make my motion to open this discussion and make a motion to open this discussion. Yeah. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. And then somebody vote something.
What is the concept of expansion?
I don't think that's the first one.
Are you,
How much is it gonna cost?
right,
Who's gonna fund it? And if you don't fund it privately, can there be a bond issue that the taxpayers have to pay?
I think it's important to set, if I'd like to just start. I actually did not think about this project prior. I was supervisor. I was invited to a meeting at the library board, and I just like to know those are public meetings, and you all can attend them. I went to the meeting at the library board, they were presenting a plan for a library expansion. And I was really surprised about the plan, was surprised, and I don't know. At a certain point, there was a question about the estimate for the proposal that was presented. And the number was somewhere in. And it was like $20 million. And at that time, we've gone through the facilities plan issues that we're grappling with this together. We have many needs as a town, we have one taxpayer base. And I expressed significant concern over the idea of the cost of this project being borne by taxpayers. It would be amazing to have a new library, but that's not necessarily one of the priorities that we have. We need to figure out how to get services to an accessible place. That to me is one of the priorities that we have. I expressed this to the board. I have since understood that I have no idea, I have no knowledge of what the board has done since. The only updates we get are from guys, and we'll be sure we can discuss this further. Your questions with regard to would the town be required to bond it? I don't think it's very straightforward. There's two aspects as I understand it. The library is chartered by the Board of Regents. So the Board of Regents control, like the laws of the Board of Regents, basically its corporate status. The town is responsible for funding the library to an adequate level. It's my understanding that I follow 25 members of our community did not think we funded the library to an adequate level and wanted more funding from the library. They could get 25 petitions signed, presented to the library board. The library board would then force us to put a vote on about whether or not we can fund, we should fund it for the board. That is very different from municipal bond. The library as informed by the regions, it's my understanding they cannot issue a municipal bond. A municipal bond would have to be issued by the town board.
Right, they can force you to issue.
They cannot, I don't believe they can, I think they only enforce lesson for declaration. That being said, we do not have bond accounts. The village does that, the town does not have a bond. So we never engaged bond council, to the extent that this were to go forward, we would have to engage bond council to understand what the issues are. It's not in, nothing I had heard about has brought that to our attention.
And I'm gonna add, we have not heard any claims in 2025 or 2024, since I've been on the board about an expansion of the library. We've talked about some neatness projects, in Alligator, which I believe all have, grants.
Can I say something?
No,
Okay, all right.
yes, so
I think that as the former liaison for the library, I have been aware that the library has been discussing expansion and how to improve the current facility where the library is. And I think things, I forgot the exact date. But I did ask about the plans and potentially the presentation to this board on what the plan was. And I think it was not fully ready to be publicly presented. And that kind of brings us to where we are now. Also was aware they brought in a consultant to advise them on how to raise money, very much in the same way that university would bring in a consultant to figure out how to fundraise for a major project. And that's been my understanding of the project.
So just to clarify, there is no estimate for the cost of the potential scope project. There is scope. The estimate, well, first of all, I'm gonna start this by saying that all of this information, most reliably should come from the library board of trustees, and I expect that of them. So as of now, there's no cost estimate, but there is a project scope that envisions what the modern library for the public community is and could be for 2026 and 2036 and 2046. As far as composition of funding, as there's no estimate, there's also no proposal for composition of funding, but generally the library board has been moving the vision and scope forward under the concept that funding will come from a mix of resources, including private donations, including legislative allocations. So basically, money from the state of New York that has already been paid through the income taxes, and then potentially bond, which I'm not entirely certain of the specific mechanics, but my understanding is not bonding through the town, but it's bonding through gas. So CIS.
Yeah.
And then there, Mr. Shapiro, you had another question, in the prior meeting about was who is leading the project. So probably from the answers today, you can tell that the town council is not leading the project. The project is being spearheaded by the library, one of the trustees, and having been the liaison for about 4 months. Again, the library board really should be the primary source of information, but my understanding is about 3 years ago. So the library in its current form, or I guess the only form, is about 30 years old. But in a building that's much older than that. And about 3 years ago, when confronted with the cost, the capital costs, and operational costs of turning over new systems, the like updating and maintaining based on the age of the building, that rather than or in alternative to making capital investments into just maintaining the then status as an alternative looked at what an investment in a transformation might be able to do. So the answer to your question from last meeting about who is leading this, it's being led by the library board of trustees, which makes sense if they're effectively the subject matter. In our
Alex?
So I mean, I'm just to kind of encapsulate everything. There's no estimate. There's no composition of funding that is as yet determined. And the library, I expect the library board of trustees in the very near future will be providing that information publicly to the community when it becomes available.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the couple of minutes from our May. Meeting. First one. Any questions? I think that one is going to change this. It's nothing about they can have the minutes. And I don't have a motion. So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like us,
I just wanted to say, tell you one thing, Senator Fernandez, Senator Fernandez asked me to tell you all that she's having a town hall at the Convention House on Thursday, June 18th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And there's more information on our website, and there'll be more information. There's information on products as well.
is that budget related?
Yeah, so for her to explain, the budget that passed, we'll take questions on that. The priorities of community updates and neighborhood concerns and constituent feedback.
May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
How do I get this?
No, you're 15. Did I? No, it's that money. That's okay.
That's okay. She's back.
Okay, so here's what happened. When
So-
Okay.
when you went out to check the YouTube the first time, it was talking. And so I wanted to hit the volume off button, but I accidentally hit the one next to it. And then I couldn't get back and I didn't know what to do, which is why it was all fucked up when you came back.
We had a great time.
So maybe it was,
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
So that's why I think it's screwed up. I don't know why we couldn't get back to it.
I feel like this is still on.